St. Louis, Missouri. The year is 1870. Stand on the banks of the Mississippi River and watch the city for just a few minutes. Steamboats arrive every hour. Cargo crates slam onto wooden docks. Horse wagons rattle through crowded streets. Merchants shout prices. Cowboys pass through town on their way west. Families carrying everything they own step off riverboats looking for opportunity. This city is not just busy, it is a gateway. Because in the late 1800s, St. Louis is one of the most important crossroads in America. From here, roads and railroads stretch toward the vast frontier, toward Kansas, toward Texas, toward the Rocky Mountains, toward lands most Americans have only heard about in stories. And every day, thousands of people pass through this city chasing the same dream, the West. But before they reach it, they must first pass through St. Louis. Long before railroads dominate transportation, rivers are America's highways, and St. Louis sits in one of the most powerful locations imaginable. Right beside the Mississippi River, the largest river system in North America. From here, boats can travel south toward New Orleans and the Gulf of Mexico, or north toward the expanding frontier. By 1870, the riverfront of St. Louis is one of the busiest commercial zones in the country. Dozens of steamboats line the docks. Smoke pours from their tall chimneys. Workers load barrels of grain, bales of cotton, timber, furs, machinery. Everything the growing nation produces eventually passes through places like this. The river turns St. Louis into a natural trading hub. But the river alone does not explain the city's explosive growth. Another force is pushing thousands of people west. After the Civil War ends in 1865, the United States begins expanding west faster than at any time in its history. The war is over, but a new national ambition is rising. The idea that the vast lands beyond the Mississippi represent the future of the country. For many Americans, the frontier is more than geography. It is opportunity. New government policies make land available for settlers willing to move west and build farms. Railroads promise to connect distant territories to growing cities. Newspapers publish stories about fertile soil, gold discoveries, and towns waiting to be built. Word spreads quickly. Farmers from the eastern states begin packing their belongings. Veterans returning from the war search for new beginnings. Immigrants arriving from Europe hear the same message, that land and opportunity exist somewhere beyond the horizon. But reaching those distant places requires preparation. Travelers need wagons, tools, animals, food supplies, and reliable information about routes and dangers. And before most settlers begin that long and uncertain journey, they stop in one place, a city standing directly at the edge of the frontier, St. Louis. Walk through downtown St. Louis in 1870, and the streets feel alive. Markets overflow with goods. Blacksmiths hammer metal tools for travelers heading west. General stores sell rifles, wagons, boots, and cooking equipment. Hotels fill with migrants arriving by boat and rail. Saloons buzz with conversations about land, gold, and opportunity. Some travelers stay only a few days. Others remain for weeks, preparing for the long journey ahead. Everywhere you look, people are planning the next stage of their lives, and many of them believe that beyond the western horizon, their future is waiting. By 1870, St. Louis has become far more than just a river port. It is a meeting point for people from completely different worlds. On the muddy streets near the riverfront, cowboys sometimes ride into town after long cattle drives across the plains. Their boots are dusty, their horses tired, and their pockets filled with wages earned on the open range. Saloons along the waterfront are often the first place they stop. Not far away, traders and merchants negotiate deals inside crowded warehouses and offices. Crates of tools, fabrics, rifles, and food supplies are bought and sold every hour. These goods will soon travel hundreds of miles west, where new towns are forming almost overnight. Meanwhile, the docks are filled with immigrants arriving from across the Atlantic. German families step off riverboats carrying trunks and wooden crates filled with everything they own. Irish laborers search for work loading cargo or building railroads. Many of them have never seen the vast western lands they hope to reach. Languages mix in the streets. English, German, Irish accents, and many others echo through the markets and boarding houses. Some people pass through St. Louis quickly, staying only a few days before heading west. Others remain for months, saving money and preparing for the long journey. But nearly everyone who arrives here shares something in common. They believe that somewhere beyond the Mississippi River, a new life is waiting. As more travelers, traders, and settlers pass through St. Louis, the city begins transforming from a busy river port into something much larger. Industry starts growing rapidly along the Mississippi riverfront. New warehouses appear near the docks to store goods arriving from farms and factories across the Midwest. Inside these buildings, workers stack barrels of flour, crates of tools, sacks of grain, and bundles of raw materials waiting to be shipped across the country. Small workshops begin turning into larger factories. Blacksmiths produce wagon parts and metal tools needed by settlers heading west. Mills grind grain brought in from nearby farms. Lumber yards supply timber for new construction as the city expands. Banks and trading companies also grow quickly, financing shipments and investments connected to Western expansion. Every day, steamboats unload cargo, while trains carry new goods toward distant territories. Slowly, St. Louis is becoming more than a stop along the river. It is turning into a powerful commercial engine, a city where industry, trade, and opportunity meet before spreading across the expanding American frontier. For decades, the Mississippi River had been the lifeline of St. Louis. Steamboats carried goods and passengers up and down the vast river network, connecting the city to markets across the continent. But by the late 1800s, another technology began reshaping transportation in a way no river ever could: the railroad. Tracks began spreading across the Midwest like veins of iron, linking cities, farms, and frontier towns. Soon, St. Louis found itself at the center of this growing network. Rail yards expanded along the edges of the city. Long freight trains arrived loaded with grain, timber, cattle, and manufactured goods from the east. Other trains departed carrying supplies toward the frontier: tools, wagons, clothing, food, and equipment for settlers heading west. Railroads changed the speed of the American economy. Journeys that once took weeks by wagon or river could now take days. Merchants could ship products farther and faster than ever before. Investors saw opportunity, and new rail companies rushed to connect their lines to St. Louis. Stations grew larger, warehouses multiplied, entire districts of the city reorganized around the constant arrival and departure of trains. The city that once depended almost entirely on the Mississippi River was now powered by two forces at once: The river brought trade, but the railroads sent it everywhere. By the 1870s, the movement of people through St. Louis has become constant. Every day new travelers arrive. Some come down the Mississippi River on crowded steamboats. Others step off long railroad journeys from cities in the eastern United States. Many arrive tired, carrying trunks, tools, and everything they own, but St. Louis is rarely their final destination. For most of them, this city is only the beginning. Along the outer edges of the city, wagon yards fill with activity. Merchants sell canvas covers, iron tools, rifles, cooking equipment, and barrels of food designed to last for months. Blacksmiths repair wagon wheels and horseshoes while travelers prepare for the long journey ahead. Guides offer advice about routes across the plains. Some travelers plan to head toward the fertile farmland of Kansas and Nebraska. Others hope to reach the mining towns growing rapidly in Colorado and Montana. A few dream of going even farther, all the way to California. The conversations in boarding houses and saloons revolve around the same questions. Which trail is safest? Where is land still available? Where can fortune still be found? Some groups organize wagon trains before leaving the city. Families who have never met before suddenly become traveling companions, knowing they may rely on each other for survival once they leave the last major city behind. Because once the wagons roll west from St. Louis, the world changes quickly. Cities disappear. Roads become rough trails. Supplies become harder to find. For many travelers, St. Louis is the final moment of certainty before entering the vast and unpredictable frontier. And every day, as more wagons leave the city heading west, the flow of people, goods, and ambition passing through St. Louis continues to grow. By the 1870s, St. Louis has earned a name that perfectly describes its role in American history. The gateway to the West. Standing on the riverfront, you can see exactly why. Steamboats arrive from the south carrying cotton, sugar, and goods from New Orleans. Others travel down from northern states with timber, grain, and machinery. At the same time, wagons loaded with supplies roll through the streets heading toward the frontier. Railroads expand outward from the city, connecting St. Louis to both eastern factories and western territories. Everything seems to pass through this place. Merchants move cargo between regions. Traders negotiate deals in crowded warehouses. Settlers prepare for long journeys across the plains. The city becomes a giant crossroads where rivers, railroads, and overland trails meet. For thousands of travelers, St. Louis is the final stop before the unknown. Here they buy tools. Here they gather information. Here they say goodbye to the comforts of the eastern United States. Beyond this point lies the frontier, vast landscapes, new towns, and uncertain futures. Some travelers will find success. Others will face hardship. But nearly all of them begin the same way, standing somewhere in the busy streets of St. Louis, looking west. What you've just seen is a historical reconstruction of St. Louis in 1870, during the time when the city served as one of the most important gateways to the American frontier. The river docks, crowded markets, wagons, and busy streets shown in this video were recreated using AI reconstruction technology, allowing us to visualize what daily life in the city may have looked like during this incredible moment in history. If you want to experience more forgotten places from history brought to life through AI reconstruction, subscribe for the next journey into the past.